This happened just a week ago. I returned to my hometown for a high school reunion. I thought it would be nice to reconnect with old friends. But when I got there, everything felt off. My name's Nick, by the way. I'm 35 now and work as a freelance graphic designer. I parked in front of my childhood home. It was quiet. The town looked like it had aged more than I had. I walked inside the house. Dust covered everything. The bright colors were now dull. I listened for echoes of laughter, but only heard my footsteps. That night, I got a text from a number I didn't know. It asked me to meet at the park, the old hangout. I thought it was a prank, but the message tugged at my memory. Over the next few days, I received more messages. They mentioned things from my past, things only old friends would know. This made me uneasy. I started to see familiar faces, but when I approached them, they vanished. Some looked right through me. I felt cold, like someone had walked over my grave. One evening, I saw a group that looked like my friends. My heart raced as I walked toward them. But when I got close, they turned their heads in unison. Their faces were blank. I opened my mouth to say something, but no words came out. I felt chills as I asked if they remembered me. They just resumed their conversation like I didn't exist. The messages kept coming. They brought back forgotten memories. Then I wondered if I was grasping at something unresolved. Maybe I just imagined it all. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. One night, while lying in bed at my childhood home, I heard a noise outside. I got up and peered through the window. A shadow stood under the street lamp. It looked like a person. I rubbed my eyes, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Then the figure turned and waved. A knot twisted in my stomach. I stepped outside, heart pounding. When I reached the spot, nothing was there. Just darkness. "Who are you?" I yelled, my voice shaky. Suddenly, a voice whispered, "Why did you leave me behind?" My breath caught in my throat. I looked around but saw nothing. The next morning I checked my messages. I felt exhausted. Had I really returned to something I thought lay buried? I drove around town, each street familiar yet twisted. Every corner brought a sense of dread. The air felt heavier, like I had brought something back with me. My friends were nowhere to be found. I looked for them everywhere. I felt disoriented, like I was stuck in a nightmare. I wanted to leave, but I couldn't. I was tethered. One last time I went to the park that night. I waited, hoping to see someone I knew. Instead, shadows danced around me. I felt watched. I asked out loud, "Is anyone there?" Silence was my only answer. The thrill of reconnecting had faded. Now all I felt was fear. I returned to my car, desperate to escape. But the messages kept buzzing on my phone, waiting for me to answer. I didn't know how to escape the memories or what had followed me home. All I could do was stare into the darkness, wishing I had never returned. The next day, I woke up late, tangled in old sheets. I stumbled into the living room, still shaken by the night before. The sunlight poured in, but instead of warmth, it felt like a spotlight exposing my fears. I grabbed my phone, ready to delete those messages, but my hand hesitated. I opened one, and it read, "You're closer than you think." That sent a chill down my spine. I didn't know what that meant, but it felt like a thread unraveling. I felt a pull to figure it out, so I hopped in my car and drove to the park again. Maybe this time someone would show up. Maybe I wouldn't just be talking to shadows. The park was empty, except for the rickety swings creaking in the breeze. I took a seat on a bench, fingers nervously tapping on my knees. I felt like a kid waiting for a friend. The air around me hummed with an unsettling energy. Memories of laughing kids echoed painfully, as if the whispers of the past were taunting me. I waited. The minutes dragged on. Finally, I pulled my phone out again. More messages. "Come find me." I looked around. It felt like I was being watched, though no one was in sight. I decided to explore. Maybe the message meant I should follow those memories. As I walked deeper into the park, everything felt different. The path was overgrown, weeds poking up from the gravel, as if nature wanted to reclaim what was once filled with life. I headed toward the old pond, the place where we used to skip stones and share secrets. When I reached the pond, I squinted at the water. The surface shimmered, but something pulled my gaze below. There was a flash of movement just beneath the surface. I leaned in closer, heart racing. For a moment, I thought I saw a face looking back at me. I blinked, and it was gone, replaced by ripples. "Nick!" The voice cut through the stillness like glass shattering. I spun around to see a figure standing by the trees, half hidden in shadow. My heart sank, and every instinct screamed to run. But I didn't. "Who are you?" I yelled, desperate for answers. The figure stepped forward, and recognition hit me like a freight train. It was Sarah, my best friend from high school. Her eyes glimmered, but there was something cold about her smile. "You've been looking for us," she said softly. "Don't you want to know why we've been waiting?" I wanted to scream. Thoughts raced through my mind. How could she be here? Was this a game? A trick? I took a step back, unsure if I should approach her or flee. Before I could decide, the shadows around the pond shifted, pulling my attention. I noticed other familiar faces emerging from the darkness, all with blank expressions, just like those I saw the other night. "Join us, Nick," Sarah continued, her voice laced with a sickly sweet charm. "We've missed you." That S when I noticed the eerie calm enveloping me. The fear I felt started to morph into something else, something more commanding. "Why are you doing this?" I stammered, forcing the words out of my mouth. But as I looked into their eyes, they dimmed, and an overwhelming dread washed over me. I turned to run, but the ground beneath me felt different, alive. Then everything went dark. I woke up on the ground. My body felt heavy, and for a few moments, I couldn't remember where I was. The last thing I recalled was Sarah's face looming over me before everything turned dark. I blinked, trying to focus, and saw leaves swirling above me in the branches. I sat up slowly, disoriented. My heart raced as I realized I was still in the park, but the atmosphere felt thicker now. I glanced around, searching for the familiar faces, but they were gone, leaving only an unsettling silence. The sunlight poked through the trees, casting long shadows that twisted menacingly against the underbrush. I felt the urge to get up and run. Where was Sarah? And what happened to the others? My phone buzzed in my pocket, startling me. I pulled it out, heart pounding. It was another message. "You can't hide forever." A chill crept up my spine. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I looked for someone, anyone, but the park was desolate. I stood, the weight of dread pushing on my chest, and began walking toward the exit, thinking I needed to get away from this place. As I stepped off the path, something caught my attention. There, half hidden in the grass, was a small stone smooth, with an inscription I couldn't quite make out. I crouched down, brushing away the dirt, and read it aloud. "Together again." My stomach twisted. This couldn't be about my past. Could it? I stood up abruptly, frantically scanning the park, half wondering if Sarah or the others were playing some cruel trick on me. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves and whispering through the trees. I felt the anxiety build again. I took a step toward the park's exit. But then, as if someone had whispered my name, I stopped. "Nick." It was soft, familiar, but tinged with something dark. I turned slowly toward the direction of the sound. There, just visible at the edge of my vision, I saw them again, the figures emerging from the shadows, their expressions blank but their eyes fixated on me. My stomach dropped. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, my voice trembling. The figures didn't move, but a wave of cold surged toward me, wrapping around my legs. I was frozen in place. They were so close, and I could see details now. Their clothes were old, faded, like they had just stepped out of another time. Each face reflected a moment in my life, memories long buried. "Are you ready to join us?" Sarah's voice broke through the stillness, seductive and haunting. "We can't wait any longer." A surge of panic jolted through me. "No," I shouted, shaking my head. I stumbled back, feeling the grass giving way beneath my feet. Couldn't breathe. Then I remembered the stone. This message clawed at my mind. That S when I saw it. Sarah's eyes flickered. For just an instant, They transformed from the vacant gaze to something familiar and real. I took a breath, mustering my courage. "This isn't right," I yelled. Suddenly, the figures moved, a collective step forward that felt like a tidal wave. I was backed against a tree, heart racing, thoughts spiraling. The shadows shifted, coiling around me, and for a moment, I thought I could see a glimmer of the friendship we once had. Then everything went dark again, but this time it felt different, as if I was being pulled into something deeper. This time, there would be no escaping without answers. I was falling. There was no ground beneath me, just an endless black. My heart pounded in my ears like a drum, and all I could feel was the pull of the void. Suddenly, a rush of wind slapped against my face, and I jolted awake, gasping for breath. I opened my eyes, still surrounded by darkness, but this time, I was lying on a cold, hard surface. My fingers brushed over rough concrete, and panic surged through me. I had to get up. I pushed myself to a sitting position and looked around. I was in an underground tunnel. The air was stale, and the distant sound of dripping water echoed off the walls. My pulse raced again. Where was I? My phone was still in my pocket, and I fumbled for it. The light illuminated the tunnel briefly, revealing graffiti scrawled along the walls, names, dates, and symbols that sent a chill up my spine. I checked for new messages. Nothing. I felt a mixture of relief and dread. It meant I was alone, but there was also danger in solitude. A distant sound caught my attention, a low murmur, almost like chanting. My gut twisted. I strained to listen, but it was hard to distinguish words in the echoing void. It was a call, something familiar but twisted in context. A wave of nausea rolled through me. I stood slowly, trying to steady myself. My mind raced as I thought about Sarah and the others. Were they here too? Or had I been separated? I took a cautious step forward, the light from my phone flickering with each movement. "Sarah?" I called out, my voice sounding weak and hollow. Silence followed. I took a step deeper into the tunnel, the chanting growing louder. Felt like a ritual, a gathering of souls. Each echo twisted my thoughts, unraveling memories that I tried to hold on to. Finally, I spotted a faint glow emanating from around a bend. I hugged the wall, inching closer, heart hammering like it wanted to escape. As I rounded the corner, I froze. A group of figures stood in a circle, their backs to me. They wore those faded, old clothes again, and I recognized their silhouettes instantly. My breath caught in my throat. They were my friends. A ghostly version of them, chanting in unison. Couldn't move. I wanted to turn and run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. They were all there: Sarah, Jamie, Kevin, faces twisted with smiles that felt insidious. The stone's message echoed in my mind, and I knew they weren't just gathering. They were summoning something. Fear sparked a sudden clarity. "You're not them," I shouted, breaking the trance that seemed to hold me captive. The chanting stopped, and all heads turned toward me. Their eyes were dark voids, reflecting nothing but an emptiness that sent shivers down my spine. "Join us, Nick," they echoed in unison, their voices dripping with honeyed malice. "You don't have to be alone." Then, without warning, they stepped toward me, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. I turned to run, but the shadows lunged, pulling at me, dragging me back. I struggled against them. Each tug on my body felt like an old memory trying to consume me. That S when I saw it, a flicker of light deeper in the tunnel, brighter than the darkness around me. Felt like hope, a desperate lifeline. I couldn't stay here. I had to move. With every ounce of strength, I broke free and dashed toward the light, the chanting behind me swelling into a frenzy. The tunnel began to close in, the weight of the figures pressing down on me. I had to reach the light, my only chance to escape whatever this nightmare was turning into. I lunged forward, my desperation pushing me onward. But then I heard it. A whisper, right in my ear. "We'll always be together." I felt something cold brush against my neck, and that S when I understood the darkness was alive. I was running, heart racing. The light ahead was brighter now, pulsing rhythmically like a beacon. With every step, I felt their eyes boring into my back, the darkness clawing at me as if it wanted to drag me down to whatever hell it harbored. Keep going. I urged myself, breath coming in quick gasps. The chanting had turned into a cacophony, echoing off the walls and scratching at my mind. I had to drown it out. I focused on the light ahead, using it as a guide. As I approached, the source of the glow became clearer. It wasn't just light. It was something more, a shimmering mist hovering in the air, coloring the tunnel with shades of blue and silver. The sight pulled me in and momentarily distracted me from the horror behind me. I burst through the haze and stumbled, barely catching myself against the wall. The scenes before me shifted rapidly, ghostly images of the past flickered in and out. I saw moments with Sarah, laughter echoing as we shared stupid jokes. Jamie's smile as we each poured our souls into late-night talks. Kevin offering me a shoulder when things got tough. But now, those memories felt tainted, twisted by the darkness pursuing me. I shook my head, forcing myself back to the present. No time to dwell. I glanced back. The figures were closer, gliding over the ground as if they weren't bound by the same rules as me. Panic clawed at my throat. Couldn't let them reach me. I turned and sprinted into the mist, praying it would shield me. I wanted to believe it was a sanctuary, but as I plunged deeper, an unsettling sensation crept over me. It was as if the mist, once inviting, had turned cold and damp. I felt trapped in a bubble of memory, each scene more distressing than the last. Then, something shifted. I saw a silhouette forming in the mist about 10 feet away. A figure emerged, and I froze, dread pooling in my stomach. It wasn't he wearing the tattered clothes like the others. Instead, it looked almost familiar but felt wrong. "Nick?" the figure whispered. My stomach dropped. It was Sarah, but something wasn't right. Her features were slightly blurred, the edges of her form flickering as if she were a projection. "Sarah?" I uttered, the word slipping past my lips. "Is it really you? Help us," she said. Her voice an echo of the warmth I remembered, but laced with an eerie chill that snaked down my spine. "We're trapped. You have to set us free." The memories flickered behind her, like a session of bad memories replaying and overlapping. I couldn't tell which were real and which were illusions. "Free?" I shook my head, shaking off a sense of rising confusion. "What happened to you guys?" "Join us, Nick," she reiterated, the shadows swirling around her. "It'll be okay. We can be together forever." My heart hammered again, but this time it was pure terror. They all wanted me to surrender. I could see them gathering at the edge of the mist, faces twisted in shades of hope and despair. But it was the darkness beyond them that terrified me most. I needed to figure out the truth. "Stop!" I shouted, looking directly at Sarah. "You're not Sarah. Whatever this is, it's a trick." The mist flickered violently as shadows swept past. I felt the urgency, the pull of desperation. They were getting closer, and I had to act. An idea sparked in my mind. "Maybe the truth is hidden in the light," I shouted, pushing past Sarah's fading silhouette. "I'll find you, but I need to break the cycle." I dashed further into the mist, determination overriding the fear. As the figures lunged after me, their insidious whispers fading into the background, I prepared for whatever lay ahead. That's when I noticed a small, glowing object hidden in the fog. I reached for it, hoping it would help me understand what was happening. But as I picked it up, I felt an icy breeze circle around, and everything went still. Then, the whispers returned, this time louder and more frantic. "You'll never escape." The whispers grew stronger, echoing all around me, pressing against my ears. "You'll never escape. You'll never escape." I clutched the glowing object tighter, feeling its warmth against the chill. The light pulsed rhythmically in my hand, countering the encroaching shadows. I looked down. It was a small glass pendant, shaped like a tear. The edges were jagged, and the center seemed to swirl with light. Whatever this was, it felt important. Maybe it could help me understand. "Focus," I shouted at myself, pushing the rising panic deep down. I had to think clearly. I glanced at the figures surrounding me, Sarah's face among them, their features pleading, desperate for my attention. They were still trapped, but I was losing ground fast. My mind raced. Could this pendant be the key? What do you want from me? I yelled, directing my question at the figures. They stopped moving. Their eyes locked onto me. Silence hanging thick in the air. Free us. Sarah's voice cut through, almost in a sing-song tone now. Join us. I shook my head. No. I want to join you. Not like this. My gut twisted painfully at the thought. Despair wrapped around me like a noose. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my wrist. I looked down just in time to see the pendant glowing brighter, illuminating my skin and casting long shadows across the chilly tunnel. It's you, I whispered, understanding dawning on me. It wasn't just a pendant. It was a connection to something deeper, something I had to confront. But how? I couldn't stay here much longer. The figures inched closer, their mouths moving as they chanted words I couldn't decipher. The shadows roared behind them, eager to pull me down. In an instinctual move, I thrust the pendant forward toward the encroaching figures. This is your last chance, I shouted. If you want to be free, show me the truth. The pendant flared with blinding light, and everything around me shifted again, spiraling into a whirling vortex of color and sound. I felt the pull of gravity shifting, like I was being yanked from one reality to another. I gasped as I was beamed into a memory the last time I was with my friends, just before everything changed. We were at the old quarry, the sun setting in a vibrant orange hue. Laughter filled the air as we jumped from the cliffs, splashing into the cool water below. I remembered the joy now tainted by the shadows of what I faced. But then, amid the laughter, a darker shadow loomed just outside the circle of light. I squinted, trying to make it out, realizing with dread that it was a figure I had missed in my recollection of that day, one that had set everything into motion. Nick! Sarah's voice was now a distant echo. Wake up. Everything went dark, and I struggled to understand, heart racing again. Someone was waiting for me, lurking at the edges of my memories. Who was it? What happened next? The pendant was still warm in my hand, but as I blinked to adapt to the darkness, I realized I was no longer where I was. I was back in the mist, but this time the shadows had retreated. I gasped for breath, my heart pounding fiercely, but I could still hear the whispers. They weren't gone. They were just waiting, and then, from the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow move. I froze, every muscle tensed. The shadow flickered again, darting like a wisp of smoke further into the mist. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. What had I just seen? The pendant still pulsed in my palm, a beacon of warmth in the surrounding chill. Without thinking, I took a cautious step forward, drawn by a mix of curiosity and fear. The whispers intensified, a chorus almost pleading, blending with the rising tension in my chest. Is someone there? I called into the darkness, my voice barely echoing back to me. The silence that followed felt heavy, suffocating. I squinted against the gloom, desperately searching for the source of the shadow. Then, a figure emerged from the mist, a boy, barely more than a teenager, with unruly dark hair and an unmistakable scar above his brow. It was Lucas. My heartbeat quickened. I hadn't thought about him in years. Lucas? The word slipped out like a breathless confession. Are you real? He stared back, his eyes wide and haunted, yet a flicker of recognition sparked within them. Nick, you have to leave, he shouted urgently, the intensity of his voice almost jarring. It's not safe here. Safe? Why? I couldn't process what was happening. The memories of Lucas were buried in the past, overshadowed by the tragedy we had faced. What do you mean? I thought you were gone? He interrupted, his tone sharp. Yeah, well, I'm not. But you need to understand. This place, he gestured around us, it traps you. Feeds off your regrets, your fears. Sarah, she's not who you think anymore. A cold shiver ran down my spine at the mention of her name. What do you mean? She's trapped here. But I can help her. Linking Sarah to Lucas sent 1,000 thoughts racing through my mind. But I clung to one. What if this was part of the transition? No. Lucas' voice cut through the chaos. You can't help her like this. You have to find the truth of what happened that day. The quarry, you have to go back. The pendant in my hand vibrated, and the memories started to swirl again. But this time, they felt more chaotic, as if they were warning me instead of guiding. I didn't want to go back, but I could feel a force pulling me toward the quarry, toward the lies buried deep within that day. Wait, I called out, but Lucas was already fading into the mist. I barely caught his last words, echoing as if from a great distance. Find me. And then he vanished, leaving only the lingering chill and the whispers. Panic surged. I had to act. I had to go back to the quarry and face whatever truth I had tried so hard to forget. I focused on the pendant. Take me back, I demanded, heart racing as the world around me began to dissolve once more. Then everything turned into a blinding light. Suddenly, I stood at the edge of the quarry, the sun dipping just like in my memories. But this time, the shadows were longer, darker, more pronounced, and I was not alone. A figure stood at the water's edge. My breath caught in my throat. It was Sarah. But this time, her eyes were void of hope, filled instead with an unsettling darkness. Nick, she said, her voice eerily calm. You've come back. Was it too late? Was she lost to the shadows forever? Sarah? I stepped closer, heart pounding in my chest. The words hung in the air, heavy and strange. What happened to you? She turned her gaze toward the water, her face framed by the fading light. I've been waiting for you. You need to understand what we lost that day. What do you mean? I took another step, but dread pooled in my stomach. Whatever had happened, it terrorized me. We can still. Do you really think you can save anyone? Her laugh was hollow, echoing off the rocky walls. Didn't you learn anything from the past? I clenched the pendant in my hand, willing it to guide me. I had to help her, had to reach whatever was left of the Sarah I knew. You're not gone, Sarah. We can find a way out of this. Whatever this is, this darkness, it can't hold you forever. She slowly lifted her head, and I caught a glimpse of something human behind the shadow. The darkness isn't outside. It's within us. Her voice softened, and I saw her eyes flicker with a brief flash of the girl I remembered. You need to choose, Nick. Are you willing to face it? Face what? My stomach churned as the words rolled off my tongue. I don't want to be trapped here. Not again. Then you have to remember fully, she replied, that shadow creeping back. The truth is buried deep. You must dive into the quarry and confront it. No, I shouted, panic tightening my grip on the pendant. What if I don't like what I find? What if it is all my fault? The water glistened ominously beneath us, beckoning like a call from the depths. I had pushed those memories away for so long. What was lurking beneath the surface? Sometimes, the only way to save others is to confront our own darkness. Her eyes softened, almost pleading. You remember Lucas, don't you? He found this place, we all did. He isn't lost, he's trapped in his own regrets. I tried to comprehend her words, but my mind buzzed. The weight of the past felt heavier than before. But how can I help him? How can I help you? By not running anymore, she said, gesturing at the water. Face the truth. Set him free, and maybe yourself too. Trepidation clawed at me. I had been so focused on saving them, I had ignored my own tangled feelings, my own guilt. What if I can't? I whispered, even as I felt the pull of the pendant growing stronger. A warm truth wrapping around my heart. That's the risk. Nick, Sarah breathed, voice barely above a whisper, as fear flickered across her face. The truth never hurts as much as the lies we tell ourselves. Something shifted in the air, thickening the atmosphere, as if the quarry itself responded to her words. The mist rose higher, and I realized something was lurking up ahead, eyes watching, waiting. That's when I heard it, a low rumble, reverberating through the ground. The water began to ripple unnaturally, tearing my gaze away from Sarah. Nick, she cried, panic brushing her calm facade. You have to decide now. Then everything began to swirl, as shadows surged from the depths, pulling at the edges of my mind. Fear gripped me. Would I drag everyone into the dark with me? Or could I face the past and uncover the truth that had been buried long ago? Time had run out, I gasped as the shadows twisted violently around me, their chill reaching deep into my bones. The surface of the quarry glimmered, but I felt anything but calm. I was anchored in fear, a dread that wrapped around me tighter than the water would. With a shaky breath, I took half a step back. Sarah's voice pierced through the chaos. "Nick, you can't hesitate. Remember what's inside you." How could I remember? All I wanted was to escape, but the pressure was mounting. The darkness churned in front of me, forming shapes that mocked me. I glanced at Sarah, desperately searching for a sign of the girl I once knew. But the flicker of humanity seemed to dim with each second. A low growl reverberated through the water, and my heart raced louder. Then I saw it, a flash of movement beneath the surface. A pale figure trapped mid-sink, arms reaching upwards. The breath caught in my throat. It was Lucas. "No!" I shouted, lunging forward instinctively. But Sarah's hands gripped my arm, her eyes wild. "Wait, you can't go in like that." "Why not?" My voice was rising, matching the growing roar of the water. "He needs help." "Not yet," she insisted, stepping back, her voice gaining an edge of desperation. "If you go in blind, it will consume you both. You must see clearly what binds him." The rumbling intensified. Shadows began to swirl nearer, growing arms and faces that were vaguely familiar. They cried out in unison, echoing my forgotten fears and failures. "Nick, help us. Remember us." It jolted something in me. I staggered, almost losing my footing on the rocky edge. I fought to understand. Those voices, they belonged to the group friends from a time I tried to forget. But how could I remember? I couldn't even face my own reflection. "Your past is part of you, Nick. If you don't confront it, they can never be free. You're the key." Sarah's urgency pushed through the chaos, forcing me to focus on her. I felt the pendant in my palm grow warmer, pulsing as if it had a heartbeat of its own. But why now? Something shifted in the depths, dark and enormous, unraveling the air around us. "They're coming," Sarah warned, eyes darting nervously. "You'll have to face the darkest part of yourself." Then, in a moment of vulnerability, she breathed, "I can't do this without you." At her words, a flicker of clarity struck me. I had lived my life trying to forget the guilt and pain when facing it could actually free us. My pulse thundered as the realization struck me like a wave. With a determined exhale, I stepped forward, ready to plunge into the water. Lucas's voice echoed in my ears, urging me on, even as shadows twisted and clawed at me. I couldn't drown in regret anymore. I would learn the truth. Suddenly, the ground trembled, breaking my focus. My skin turned cold as a new presence emerged from the shadows, a face I never expected to see. Someone stepped through the mist, and in that instant, the air thickened, suffocating me. It was Lucas. "Nick, help me," he whispered. My heart dropped. I was torn between wanting to save him and the terror of what it might cost. This was it. Time had truly run out. I took a deep breath, steadying my resolve. This was not just about saving Lucas or even Sarah. It was about confronting the truths I had buried deep within me. "You can't hide from this anymore," I whispered, mostly to myself. Ignoring the shadows that flickered at the water's edge, I took a step closer to the pond. The cold surface rippled and danced as if it were alive, and I could make out a hand reaching beneath the water. Lucas's face twisted in desperation, his eyes pleading. "Nick, help," he cried. But below the surface, something sinister lurked. A shroud of darkness undulated, reflecting my own fears back at me. Memories flashed in rapid succession, the laughter, the secrets, the fateful accident we never spoke of again. I felt the weight of guilt wrap around me, but I pushed it aside. These memories were part of me. They did not define me. "Together again," I muttered, recalling the inscription on the stone I found earlier. I understood now. We were bound together by our past, and to break free we had to face it. "Lucas!" I yelled, my voice cutting through the whispers that swirled around us. What happened up here? What did we leave behind? The water beneath the surface grew still, and for a moment, The pulls of darkness receded. Lucas's face emerged, soaked and exhausted. "You have to remember the day we lost ourselves. You were the one who suggested the jump," he choked out, despair creeping into his tone. I felt my heart race. "That day, the cliff, the water," I gasped, recalling the moment as my fear clawed at my throat. I had pushed him to take that leap, and when he dove, he hit a submerged rock. Chaos followed, and we all scattered. Lucas went under, but I had never dove in to save him. I had fled, leaving him behind. My breath hitched. A wave of shame swelled inside me. How could I have let fear control me so completely? "I didn't mean to leave you, Lucas. I thought," I faltered. "I thought you were gone." The shadows coiled tighter, dragging me away from the revelation. I could see Sarah's silhouette in the water's reflection, a sign that I wasn't facing my past alone. "Face it, Nick," she shouted from somewhere beyond the mist. "It's time to decide." I gritted my teeth, desperation urging me to choose. No, I refused to let fear take me again. With everything I had, I lunged forward, plunging into the water. It embraced me instead of drowning. I felt life surge through me. As I submerged, I saw Lucas again, and this time, I swam toward him with purpose. The coldness wrapped around me, but it was different now. It felt like clarity. "Remember," he shouted, and suddenly, images flooded back: the joy of friendship, the laughter, but also the weight of regret. I was free-falling through moments of my life, but this time, I took hold of them not as burdens, but as lessons. The essence of the pond began to shift. It morphed into a whirlpool of recollections, our times together layered over pain and fear, twisting like vines around my heart. I had let go of my friends, but in doing so, I had lost something vital in myself. I gasped for air, feeling the water surge around me, pulling me deeper. But instead of resisting, I surrendered. I felt the weight of the past transform. The shadows receded and morphed into shapes of my friends, appearing with grace and clarity, their hands guiding me. "See?" Lucas's voice called from somewhere inside me. "This is where it all went wrong. Don't fight it, Nick." And it clicked: the shadows were not just my friends calling for help. They were manifestations of everything I had avoided, the memories I feared, the guilt I thought I could escape. If I could reach Lucas, I could free him and myself. With a powerful thrust, I swam toward the depth where he struggled. "I'm here," I shouted. "I won't abandon you again." My hands grasped his wrist, and I felt the warmth and the chilling despair. Something shifted. An understanding, a connection bound us. The shadows around us trembled, weaving together like roots seeking the light. "Together," I urged, pulling Lucas up, igniting the warmth within me. We burst through the surface, gasping, light filtering across our faces as the dark arms attempted to cling to us. But they couldn't hold on to the truth we unleashed. The water erupted in brilliant hues of blue, consuming the shadows, exposing the light beneath. The voices faded, replaced instead by our own. "Let go," I yelled, hand locked with Lucas as we broke free. The world spun, and the shadows transformed into glimmers, each memory now bright and clear. It was overwhelming, but I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years. I looked toward the edge of the quarry and saw Sarah standing there, eyes flooded with hope. "Nick," she called, and the shadows released their grips entirely. A tidal wave of memories crushed against the shore, pulling us both up onto the solid ground. Switching from darkness to light came at both a cost and a freedom. I understood now. There would always be questions: what truly happened that day? How did such a tragedy unfold? But that no longer mattered. The past would always be a piece of my story, intertwined with the present. Lucas and I sat on the bank, breathless but alive as the shadows receded. I turned to look at Sarah. Sure, my face revealed the mix of sorrow and triumph. "You're free," I murmured, both to her and to the memories we shared that had haunted me for so long. But the shadows lingered beyond the water, a reminder of what once was. As I stood, the cool breeze felt different, as if carrying a fragment of the unknown. It didn't feel complete, inevitable questions remaining. I glanced back at the quarry, echoes of laughter haunting the edges. What would happen now? Could I return to the life I had left behind, free from the weight of the past? I didn't know, but I was ready to find out. "Let's go," I said, knowing the answers were still waiting to unfold on the path ahead. As I took Sarah and Lucas's hands in mine, the darkness retreated behind us. I de-escaped, but the journey was just beginning.